I'm really very happy and pleased to invite everyone to this tea time event that is our very first one for this semester. Happy to see new and old faces. For some people, I think you might need some introductions, but that's later. You can do that on the chat section. But this event has been going on for maybe 7 years for anyone that is new in this forum. And it's organized by the Kongamano Student Group in support of the African Studies Center. And somebody might ask, why did we decide to call this African Tea Time? There's no tea, especially now that we're in the virtual platform. Please, you're welcome to grab a cup of tea or even coffee, because we couldn't know it's tea or coffee, at least a cup. Even has some drink, which would be good. The reason why the foundation or the name Tea Time was founded on the communal culture, really, generally in Africa, because people meet, gather together to catch up on some matters, to hang out and to socialize even over a cup of tea. And then now we thought that we that are interested in Africa, come from Africa, or Africanists in all ways, can have a forum like this where we can come together and discuss different issues pertaining to Africa. And that's where we have the tea time coming up from, because I've had this question before. And before we continue with the program, I'd like to do a few introductions, and perhaps I should start with myself. I'm not very new to anyone here, but I'm Damaris Joti. I'm assistant to the director of the African Studies Center. I do student and alumni engagement work. And in this program, we've been having 3 facilitators, and one of them is Jorem Awadu, and Jorem is here. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to let them say hi and introduce themselves a little bit. Say something.
Hi, I'm Jorem Awadu. Yes, I've been part of the team for quite a number of years. So yeah, I'm glad to be here again.
Thank you so much. And by the way, I should have said he's Dr. Awadu, because he's a very recent alum of MSU. And we're so happy that you're still able to spare some time and continue having this program with us. And then another person that is not here that is also a facilitator is also Dr. Tutilo Mdumba. Tutilo is back in Uganda. He's an alum as well. And he's a lecturer right now in Makerere University in Department of Zoology, Fisheries, and that department. That's where he is. Apologies, he wasn't able to make it today. And then I also want to introduce Sarah Davis. Sarah has been the president of the Kongamano Student Organization that I talked about. And at this time, I want to welcome her and invite her to say something about Kongamano, so you know which is this student organization. She's not a student, she's an alum as well. You can imagine how blessed we had to have alums still continue participating with us. So Sarah, please, welcome.
Dr. Choti explained what Kongamano is very well and what we do. We do more than tea time also. Like normally we are able to have Taste of Africa, which is a really fun event, and it's a great way to connect with people. And I'm always very thankful to be able to participate and work together with such a great group of people. And we're always looking for new members on the e-board and just general members to help out with tea time and Kongamano as a whole, and outreach to the Africanist community at MSU. I'm sorry I can't be here the whole time today. I mixed up my schedule, but it's been really nice to meet everyone, and I'm happy everybody gets to see what we do and how we do it and have great conversation today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And then the last person that I'm going to introduce is Ebenezer, Ansah. And Ebenezer is going to be the facilitator for today's event. And I'll not introduce him further, I'll let him introduce himself as well, and then continue with the program.
All right, thank you, Dr. Choti. So like she rightly mentioned my name, Ebenezer Ansah. I have been around MSU for the past 6 years. I've been under training with Dr. Awadu. So anything I do today is the handwork of Dr. Awadu. He trained me. So today we are going to talk about Africa. We will focus on a few countries, 2 countries for today. And that's been the style of the African tea time. We want to learn about Africa, but we can't do it all at once. So every day when we gather, we focus on a particular country or maybe 2 or 3 countries, and then we have presentations from people from that country. And then after the presentations, we have a conversation around whatever it is that they said, or anything else that we want to talk about in relation to that particular country, or any general thing about Africa and people that are interested in Africa. So today we have 2 presenters, one from Malawi and then one from Togo. So what we'll do is that we'll give each of them some time, about 20 minutes, to give a short presentation. And then after they are done with their presentations, we'll have a conversation. So how we'll do it is that during the presentations, we'll entreat that you take note of your questions that may come up or things that you may want to have us talk about in the conversations. And then when the presentations are done, we bring them up and then we'll go ahead with the discussions and the conversations. I wouldn't like to say too much about them. We have Chima from Malawi and then Caca from Togo. I think Chima is going to go first, right?
Yep.
All right, so Chima will share his screen with us and then take us through some presentation. But before he does that, he will just tell us something about himself briefly, and then we move on. And then once he is done, I'll come in and then I'll call on Caca to also do similar, and then we'll take the conversations. All right, so Chima.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. I really enjoy participating in Tea Time. This is, I think, my 3rd presentation. I've been with MSU since 2017. I initially joined the university to study for a master's in social work, graduated 2019, which is last year, confused with the dates, and then started the doc program immediately after. And so this semester I start my 2nd year in the PhD program. Still a newbie in the doc world, still navigating those hills and mountains, but it's a fun challenge. And so today I'm going to talk about mental health and self-care during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here.
All right, so whilst Chima is sharing his screen, let me steal a second from him and say that while the presentation is going on, I will encourage us to use the chat section to introduce ourselves. So you tell us your name, your affiliation, and how you got to know about Tea Time, and then we can say some hello and hi, and some brief conversations can go on. Some brief introductions can go on whilst the presentation is going on in the chat section.
Alrighty, here we go. So I'm going to talk briefly about Malawi. Let me get timer started here so that I don't go over. And then I will move on to my presentation. And so Malawi is a tiny country in Southeast Africa. It's landlocked and it shares borders with Tanzania to the north, Mozambique to the east and west, and then even to the south, because Malawi is kind of enveloped by Mozambique, and then to the south, Zambia. And so that's a little bit about Malawi's geography. Population is less than 20 million. And so all of the people in Malawi can fit in Lagos, if to put things in perspective. A little bit of the administrative geography. So Malawi is divided into 28 districts across 3 regions, the north, center, and south. And informally, part of the south is called the Eastern region, but that's not official. So the capital and seat of the government is in Lilongwe. The former capital is in Zomba, which is in the south. This was during the British colonial rule, and the British preferred Zomba because of its altitude and the cooler weather there. But then after Malawi gained independence, the capitals moved to Lilongwe. So Malawi's currency is the kwacha, more formally known as Malawi kwacha, to be distinguished from the Zambian kwacha. And that is because Malawi and its neighbor, Zambia, have shared history. They were both part of the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland under British rule, which also included Zimbabwe. So Nyasaland was Malawi, and then Rhodesia was, I think, it was south and north, was Zimbabwe and Zambia. And Malawi was formerly called Nyasaland. It is said, apparently, when Livingstone showed up and discovered the lake, that he asked, what do you call the lake? And people say Nyasa, which simply means lake. And so he called it Lake Nyasa, lake, and then it became Nyasaland, which is funny. But after Malawi gained independence, the name was changed to Malawi, which means flames, flames of fire, to be more specific. So I'm gonna move into my presentation now. So I want to start off by sharing some mental health resources. So I want to give the disclaimer that I am not a licensed social worker or a licensed therapist. I do have an MSW, but I decided not to pursue licensure because I don't plan to see any clients as I focus on my current studies. Normally in our field, the master's is considered the terminal professional degree. And so to practice as a social worker, the highest you need is the master's. And following graduation, you do sort of your hours and you get your license. You go from a limited license to a full license, then you can see clients. And then there's also two areas of practice, micro practice and macro practice. Micro is known as clinical social work, which is more therapy based. And then macro social work is more systems and communities, which is the track that I took. So my focus was organization and community leadership, because I like working with communities and systems. But even as a macro social worker, I don't have that license. And in fact, can't even call myself a social worker. I have the master's, but I'm not a practicing social worker. So I wanted to give some resources here for us to be aware of, some mental health resources. So MSU CAPS has a crisis line that's available 24/7, 365 days a year. That's a resource that is available to all of us. And I have listed their number there if you're in need of telemental health services, because they're not seeing people in person at the moment. And then in case of an emergency, you should always dial 911, or if possible, go to the nearest emergency room. And I've also included the CAPS website here. So I want to start off by defining self-care. And here's a quote that I like, which says, self-care isn't the same as self-love. Self-love is a journey of self-acceptance, letting go of your past and loving who you are at the core. Self-care is about your ability to put yourself first so you can stay on the journey. And as social workers, we talk a lot about self-care because the nature of our work can often result in vicarious trauma because you help people navigate difficult circumstances, and you can take that upon yourself. It can be very hard. So we emphasize self-care so that you're not neglecting your own mental health, but also it's a lot of work, generally speaking, as I'm sure is the case in all the other different disciplines that are represented here. And so self-care should naturally be a part of our day-to-day life, because it's essential for us to be able to stay on this journey of life in general. And then so I want to talk a little bit about mindfulness. So mindfulness, the reason why I wanted to start here is because during this pandemic, we've all been affected in many different ways, and not a lot of us have had this kind of opportunity to just stop and think and be present. We're accustomed to being busy and trying to get to the next thing, but mindfulness is something that's important all the time. We need to always learn to sort of bring our faculties to the moment, be physically present, and just take in and observe what's happening, to notice our world and just be present. And so maybe before I get to cognitive distortions, another thing with mindfulness is mindfulness also entails not making a value judgment. So if, say, for example, you're feeling sad or you're feeling moody, instead of thinking of yourself as a moody person, or thinking ill of yourself or something, just being mindful would require that you just notice what you're feeling. Like, don't make a value judgment. During these times, as we live through this pandemic, all sorts of feelings and emotions have been stirred up in people. And one helpful thing to do is just to be mindful, to notice your thoughts and realize that you are not your thoughts. You are just a vehicle through which the thoughts are passing. So your mind is just that vehicle that thoughts are passing through, and then you can channel them accordingly, filter them and process as needed, which is going to lead us to cognitive distortions. I wanted to talk about this. Cognitive distortions, basically we talk about, misconstruing a presenting situation. So I'm going to give you a scenario. Imagine that you're on the highway or on some busy road, stuck in traffic because there's such a long queue. Everybody's frustrated. Everyone's trying to get to work, trying to get to where they need to get. And everybody's just waiting, patiently moving at a snail's pace. And then as you look into your rearview mirror, you see a car approaching on the shoulder of the road, passing everyone and not staying in the queue, then you start to get frustrated. You're like, why would this person, use the shoulder of the road, which is meant for emergencies, to just cut in line and get to wherever it is they're going. And you start to get worked up, angry, and maybe you start to hurl insults at them, or you honk your horn. All sorts of feelings would come up in you. And what if you later found out that this person had in their back of their car, a woman that was due for childbirth, delivery, and that her water had already broke and the baby was on its way and the driver is rushing her to the hospital? Would that make you feel any different about the situation that you just observed? So as you get more information, you change your judgment of the situation. And this is where the cognitive distortions come in. Not obviously, but oftentimes we are reactionary to our environment without processing all of the necessary information. And so, it's important when you see something to give it the benefit of the doubt. Things are not always what they seem. We have instinct for a reason, and it helps us a lot, but we also need to take a moment to assess, evaluate, and this is where that mindfulness comes in handy. It's just see what's going on and consider the different possibilities that might be at play in any given situation. And so I want us to do a little skills building to help us sort of navigate self-care and moments of difficulty. And so maybe before we, maybe I wanted us to do a breathing exercise. Maybe we do this at the end because I'm already at 10 minutes. Okay, so the frame of reference that I'm going to use for the skills building is dialectical behavior therapy. And I'll just take a few elements of it to share with you. So in dialectical behavior therapy, commonly known as DBT, the dialectic refers to two paths. One is change, the other is acceptance. Now, if you observe that there is a situation, a presenting situation that is not good, and you resolve to just change everything about you with regard to that situation, that's problematic because it implies inadequacy with yourself and with how you're navigating the situation. People make mistakes, people encounter different difficulties, but that doesn't necessitate that they completely do away with who they are just to accommodate whatever is presenting. Now, the other opposite, the other part of the dialectic is acceptance. With acceptance, if there's difficulty presenting, but if we choose, not to, come to terms with that, and we just choose to believe in our own flawed reasoning or, whatnot, that can lead to complacency because we're moving away from objective thinking to just, yeah, this is what I think, this is the situation, and everybody else should just deal with things as they are. So it borders on pessimism, and nihilism. But DBT pushes for the middle path, finding that balance of, change what you can that's not good, and then radically accept the rest. This is the middle path. Idealism is not helpful, trying to have everything be perfect and good. But also pessimism, cynicism of just writing off everything as negative is also not helpful. In life, you have both the good and the bad. And so the onus is on us to find the middle path. We're constantly changing the things we can and then radically accepting the things that we cannot. And so distress tolerance, we talked a little bit about, how the pandemic has been stressful and things like that. And so the first skill that I want to help you with is for managing distress tolerance. Now, DBT has a skill called the TIP, and it's an acronym. T simply means temperature, I is intense exercise, P is paced breathing, and the other P is progressive muscle relaxation. This is kind of where I wanted us to do the exercise, but maybe if we have time, we can do this at the end. So in terms of temperature, if you are experiencing a challenging situation, you feel flustered, your body temperature is starting to get high, maybe get a pack of ice or a bag of frozen peas or something and use it to cool your forehead, or switch on a fan. Just allow your body temperature to go back to normal. That can help you with distress tolerance. Or if it's hot, it's the opposite. If it's super cold, try and get warm, put on a sweater. That can be comforting, or turn up the temperature. It will help you also with getting grounded and being more mindful. Taking on some intense exercise can also have the same effect. Paced breathing, so breathing in, breathing out, and just noticing your breathing. And then progressive muscle relaxation. So tightening certain muscles, letting them go. This is a simple skill that can help you manage some distress. Another skill that I want to bring about is effective communication. One thing that's happened also in the course of this pandemic is, interpersonal relationships have been affected by the cabin fever. Normally we spend reasonable amounts of time, with each other. This pandemic has put us in a situation where we're with each other 24/7 all the time, without any alone time, any personal time. And for some people, that's been frustrating, and there's been conflict and whatnot. And so I want to explain a little bit about how to be an effective communicator in a way that can support your relationships and not harm them. So there's basically 3 categories of communication. You can either be a passive communicator or an aggressive communicator. Using DBT, the middle path would be an assertive communicator. Now, if you look at an aggressive communicator, basically you understand that they're extreme, and they come across as inconsiderate. It's their way or the highway. They're very reactionary in how they communicate, and they might have a reaction of, oh, this is how that person reacts. People tend to tiptoe around, aggressive communicators. On the other hand, passive communicators are walked all over by people because they just kind of accept whatever people throw at them because they're trying to bring about social harmony. They've experienced invalidating environments where their voice was not heard, and as a result, they've become non-assertive. Now, passivity is adaptive, but it's not sustainable because it results in a breaking point that leads to aggression. Is when you have a passive person snap and people are like, where is that coming from? Like, I did not expect this. It's because they're so tired of dealing with everyone's control and being the one that takes on the negative, end of things, that they finally snap and become aggressive in their communication. Aggressive people do the opposite. When they feel judged a lot for how they speak, they might just say, okay, fine, and I'm not going to speak at all, and they become passive. But a good communication style is being assertive. Now, oftentimes, assertion has a little bit of a negative connotation, but being assertive is not a bad thing. It's simply being clear about what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, not leaving anything to guessing, like making sure that you're heard and people know, speaking your mind, basically, being assertive. getting what you need, saying what you need, and being straightforward. What you see is what you get. Whereas passivity can result in people just being perceived as being okay with the situation when they're not. And aggression can also have the effect of blocking out other voices when you do want to hear other people's opinions, but you just feel like you won't be heard, so you got to speak the loudest, both literally and figuratively. So that's another skill. And then with regard to that, I think this is probably the last skill I'm sharing. Yes. With regard to that, I want to share another DBT skill called Dear Man, which is also an acronym. Now, when facing a sort of a conflict or misunderstanding with someone, it's important to use tact in resolving that. So Dear Man asks us to, first of all, as you talk to the other person about the situation, describe what happened in an objective, non-judgmental way by stating the facts. This, research has shown that if you start from there in an objective way and the person agrees with you that that's indeed what happened, there's a greater chance of the conversation going well, as opposed to, oh, you did this and this happened and this made me feel this way. Start by saying, something like, oh, we agreed to get dinner on this day. I went to the restaurant, you didn't show up. Just sharing what happened, not saying, oh, you stood me up, or just, what are the facts? Describe the situation. The person's gonna be, yeah, we made plans. Oh, you did go? Yes, I didn't go. And then you're gonna say, yeah, that made me feel like my time was not respected or valued. Like, say what it made you feel, and then assert what you want and say, next time I want you to let me know if you're not gonna show up at a meeting because I have other things that I needed to get to. Now, if the person starts to make excuses or whatever, just reinforce what you're trying to say so that you have mutual understanding. Like, you're not passing a value judgment, but you're just saying that for you, you prefer that your time is treated in a particular manner. Some people are okay with being stood up, but some people are not. And this is just an example, right? So fill in the blanks with whatever you want to. And then also use your mindfulness skills. So be in the moment, read their body language. Don't be rigid in wanting to get through all these steps. Read the situation. Is this a good time to talk? Should you even assert what you want or need? And again, the difference between want and need there would be, one is a must-have, the other is, something that would be preferable, So knowing where to draw the line in terms of what you're willing to accept and how you feel you should be treated, and things that, on top of that, you would appreciate if they were also done. And then appearance is, appear confident, so that this helps with being heard, and stand your ground. Don't back down, address the conflict. Don't sort of double back and be like, yeah, but I'm not angry, it's okay. A lot of times when people say it's okay, it's actually not okay. So say what you mean and mean what you say. And also don't only focus on your own appearance, also look at their appearance and see, what the situation is like. Lastly, negotiate. It's not all about what you want, how you felt, but have the person meet you halfway and, see how your relationship, your interaction, and whatever it is, whether it's an activity, a personal relationship, a working relationship, whatever it is that you're navigating, in life during this pandemic in general, you always have to negotiate. And so I kind of rushed through all that, but I'm at my 20 minutes, and thank you so much. That's what I had to share with us today.
All right, thank you so much, Chima. We appreciate that, and we appreciate all that knowledge that you shared with us. And I hope that as Chima was presenting, we were taking notes and drawing lessons from what he was saying and how we've been living our lives in this pandemic times. So I hope when it gets to the conversation time, people will have comments to share and questions to ask, particularly maybe having to do with how they've been applying these skills that Chima shared with us in their real lives and their experiences with how it has been so far in these times. So thank you very much, Chima. at this time, I guess I'll turn it to Caca. And as I said initially, Caca is from Togo, and so she's going to share something with us in relation to Togo. So Caca, over to you.
Okay. Bon. Okay. Okay, hello everyone. So, my name is Afiavi Caca Akibode. I am here today, this evening, to present on women entrepreneurs facing COVID-19 and their coping strategies in Togo. So before going through the presentation, let me present my country where I come from, that is Togo. Togo is a small country between Benin and Ghana. It shares its border with Ghana, Benin, and Burkina Faso, with a population of 7.8 million inhabitants. So in 2019, Togo's economic growth is around 5% due to the investment in infrastructure. When we take the economical situation, Togo has a significant agricultural potential, which presents or represents 28% of the country's GDP. And they employ a 68.5%. That means the main revenue come from agriculture. So unfortunately, the sector remains under exploited. So according to the social situation, despite the efforts made by the government, the rate of unemployment is high. So we have here our president. The president of Togo is For Nyasingbe Esabzina. This president is ruled Togo since 2005. So as I said it, my name is Afiavi Caca Akibode. Let me now give my background. So I am an economist project manager, and I am actively work in private sector, especially in the promotion of micro and small scale enterprise. Currently, I am working with National Agency of Employment. So in addition with this position, I have my own company, which is Calia Expertise, whose main area is the empowerment, women empowerment. In my previous mission, I have also worked with General Director of Employment and also with International Labor Organization. So with GIZ, who certify me as a coach in entrepreneurship, I am working with them on the program, professional training, vocational professional training. So my passion for economic research led me to work with on different themes, research different themes, and with many organizations such as African Economy Research Consortium, African Economy Research Consortium, and International Council of Research in Dakar. So what is Calia Expertise? What is the area of Calia Expertise, the main objective of Calia Expertise? Calia expertise intervene in women entrepreneurship area. It has three main objectives. So the first objective is to develop the economic potential of women and young people through entrepreneurship. The second objective is linked to the supporting economic development through empowerment of women, and then contribute to the women capacity development through training. Since the creation of Calia expertise, we have worked with many partners, such as Michigan State University, International Labour Organization, Plan International, the American University of Cairo, and African Economic Research Consortium. So, which action Calia expertise has implemented in the area of entrepreneurship? We have implemented many actions. The first action we have implemented is with global expertise by supporting the implementation of the realization of African Young Entrepreneurs Fair that promotes entrepreneurship through the promotion of private initiative. Also, we have worked in collaboration with Michigan State University to promote the entrepreneurship certificates that lead Togo young to take a course in entrepreneurship with Michigan State University, a course that gives them ability to develop their entrepreneurial mindsets. Also, we have worked again with International Labour Organization through a technical support to young people who are financed. With the startup impact promoted by global expertise, we work together to organize a meeting, which is a practical discussion between students, researchers, entrepreneurs, and practitioners to support the greater impact for community or local governments. In March, in last year, to promote women entrepreneurship, on International Women's Day, we organize also a special Women Entrepreneurs Day, which is an event that gather all women owner of company to make exchange regarding the situation, and through that to share their experience in entrepreneurship area. And finally, in last February, I think last February, we have a presentation here during Africa Tea Time of Women Entrepreneurship in Togo, Progress and Challenge. So currently, what we are doing, we are working with National Agency of Employment as entrepreneurship expert in charge of creation and development of small, micro, and small scale enterprise. A collaboration that leads us to work with other organizations such as national projects of rural entrepreneurship promotion led by the Ministry of Agriculture, and with GIZ, who is implementing the program, its program on vocational training. So after this implemented action, let us go through women entrepreneurship, women entrepreneurs, please, facing COVID-19 and their coping strategies, which is our main presentation. So that is our plan for the presentation. So we will give the general overview on the crisis in Togo. After that, we will give the relationship with the sanitary crisis and the private sector. and Kalia expertise action to help company or women company in this period of COVID-19. So this action is summarized on 3 points. The first point is the effect of COVID-19 on small, micro and small scale enterprise in Togo, women entrepreneurs facing COVID-19, and Kalia expertise contribution to support women entrepreneurs to help them overcome the crisis. So our first point is the general overview of women entrepreneurship. So we know that the health crisis created a global economic crisis that can develop in the developing country and also in developed country. So to give a response to the pandemic, government have enforced social distancing and other barriers to reduce the spread of the virus. So in March 6, the Ministry of Health declared the first case in Togo, in the capital, in Lomé. So to limit the spread of the virus, the government also implements many barriers that create a shock in the labor markets that affecting supply, production, and service, and the demand. So, concerning the sanitary crisis and the private sectors, we can say that Togolese private sector is mainly composed by small, micro, and small scale enterprise. So we can say also that they are the engine of the economic growth in Togo, and they are full of potential. They represent around 80% of national economic activities. But unfortunately, with the crisis, Togo also has suffered about the COVID-19 pandemic. So when we base on the general survey made by the INSET, it appears that the private sector is going to lose her performance because the economic performance is reached by the pandemic, the effect of the bad side of the effect of the pandemic. So regarding this situation, knowing that the effects, the crisis affects deeply the small and micro company in Togo, Kalia expertise implements many actions to support this company. The first action implemented by Kalia is to make a research on the effects regarding the COVID-19 crisis on small-scale enterprises. So to make this analysis, we use a data from World Bank survey carry out in June on 150 firms in Togo. So it is a level firm. It is a level firm survey for a representative sample of companies come from private sector. The survey also covered a broad range of environment topic. So the sector on which we implement the analysis is composed with the manufacturing sectors, the service sectors, and other sectors. The analysis by using the data come from World Bank reveal many results. The first result is concerning the temporarily closed due to the COVID-19. So according to the analysis, according to the analysis, we see that the company, despite the crisis, only 12% of the company has closed, but 87% remain open. When we take the part of the impact of COVID-19 on film sales, generally, we see that 86% that participate to the follow survey say that their sale was decreased. But for 70% or around 80%, they say that their sale remained the same. Only 1% interviewed say that they increased their sale they increased their sale. 1% or around 2% say that their sale was increased. So what about the impact on production activities? Has this company converted its production or service in response to the COVID-19? In Togo, we remark that only 23% say that they are converted their activity into other activities, but 74% say that their activity remain the same activities. What about the demand? The demand of products and the service. When we take the demand part, in Togo, we see that 92% say that participate to the interview, say that their sale decreased, their production or their demand decreased, while 3% say that their demand remain the same. What about the started or increased business activity online? According to the increasing of business or activity online, we see that in the period of the crisis, we see that only 4%, 12% reported that they use digitalization to promote their activity. But when you see the graph, 84% did not take any online action to improve their activities. So we see that the number of women who didn't use any digitalization tools is bigger in Togo. What about the impact on temporary workers? Has the number of temporary workers remained the same? No, we can say no because when you see the graph, around 63 say that their temporary worker decreased, but 35% say that their temporary worker remain the same. The national or local measure taken in Togo. Has the company received any national or local government measure in Togo? When the survey revealed that 86% of the company that participate to the survey did not benefit from the measure. Only 9% of them reported that they receive the support of the government. But when we take the other parts, which is regarding the reason why they did not receive the government support, more than 60% of the firm reported that they are not aware of this assistantship. 6% say that they are not qualified for this opportunity. And 4% say that the measures are too small for them. So furthermore, 2% confirm that they don't need this help from government. Policy change, which is most beneficial to the business, face this situation. So business, so when we see the graph, 78% of the business reported that their obligation is more beneficial. So 13% suggest that they want the reduction of a fiscal charge. So 3% prefer that government can increase the availability of credit to support them financially. What can we conclude regarding the analysis made based on the follow-up survey of World Bank? We can say that in many cases, the pandemic decreased or stopped the production. The decreases lead to the serious drop in production, which means that temporary employees had been laid off. Also, it appeared that small-scale enterprises are not accustomed to using the technology, the digitalization tools in their activities. Also, government aid for small-scale enterprises is practically in existence. When we take 2/3 of this, 2/3, please, of this survey, they say that they want the support they want from government can be tax reduction. So from this survey or from this conclusion, Kalia expertise make some recommendation. This recommendation is divided in two parts. The first part is the financial support from government, and the second part is the technical support. When we ask about financial support, that will be a partnership with local financial service provider that can help small-scale enterprise to finance them. They can also help them by giving them internet connection to facilitate them the use of related service to develop their activities online. They can exempt also micro and small enterprise from tax obligation. According to the technical support, so technical assistance can be implemented to help micro and small scale enterprise to reach their customer online. So the second action concerning the survey conducted by Calia Expertise on women entrepreneurs facing COVID-19 and their coping strategies. Because when we analyze the situation, we see that we have a data from World Bank that allow us to make the analysis on the general sector. I mean, small, micro, and medium enterprise in general. But we don't have any data that will allow us to make an analysis on women entrepreneurship facing COVID-19. That is why we implement a survey with the support of Global Expertise, a survey on 10 women entrepreneurs that lead us to have a result and make a conclusion, and then make our contribution to support them. So our survey is based on 10 women, which are 10 women who are interviewed about their activities. So this company that are interviewed come from agribusiness area, craft and services. So here is the interview administration. So many questions are administrated for women to know how they are facing the crisis. How they are facing the crisis and which opportunity they are gained through this crisis. The results show that generally for most women, which is interviewed, the crisis was really a shock. So all the women interviewed say that their sale was decreased because of the lockdown. When we take 80% of the 98% of the women interviewed, they believe that their financial activities are largely affected with negative impact on their family expense. Also, all the women say that they used to release the employee because of financial reason. 19% of the women say that they had lost their customer. So only 10% or 1% say that she has a permanent contact with their customer by using online services. So what action firm implement or small scale company implement to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19? They implement many actions. So for some of them, they reconvert their activities in other sectors, such as the selling of masks, the consumption of masks, and others say again, to face the situation, they use the previous saving to face their charges, and then other state that with the support, they face the crisis with the support of their family. What is the opportunities the small company led by women gain from the crisis? When during the interview, they say that, as I said it yet, the diversification, they base their activity on diversification of their production. They shift through medical supply and protective equipment such as mask, hydroalcoholic gel, and others. Those who is in the agribusiness say that they converted their activity by producing therapeutic foods. So one of them say that this crisis allow her to get a good managerial skill, financial management skill, because with the crisis, she know that they don't have more customers, so she want to manage she want to manage the money she have to face the situation. So this crisis allow her to get a good skills in financial management. Also, even if it is one, she said that she manage her activity by use online tools. What is the takeaway of this analysis? This analysis lead us to know that also, as we pointed in our previous study concerning the effect of COVID-19 on small-scale enterprise in general, this analysis regarding women entrepreneurship lead us to know that women also want financial support and also technical assistance to overcome this situation. So what action are aware of this situation, knowing that women want financial support and technical support? What action career expertise do to support these women? So we know that financial support can give by government, but a technical support can give by some private company that can be government and private company. So our decision is to support technically these women entrepreneurs to overcome the crisis. That is why we organized last time a meeting that can help women entrepreneurs improve their skills, the skills that will lead them to face any crisis. That can be international crisis, that can be national crisis, or that can be family crisis. So here is the meeting we organize to support the women entrepreneurship, because we say that we have to give them the main quality that entrepreneurs must have to face a crisis. So our meeting or our action will base on two actions or on 2 points. The first point is to strengthen women entrepreneurship capacities, and the second aspect will be to build women capacity in terms of digitalization. So that is the first meeting we have made, and through this first meeting, through role playing sketch, we lead women entrepreneurs to reveal out or to point out the qualities necessary to women entrepreneurs to face a crisis. What is the good quality women entrepreneur or entrepreneur general can have to face a crisis? Because today we know that the crisis is international. Maybe tomorrow the crisis will be national, or the crisis can come from our family. So we see that it is important to help these women to know which quality entrepreneurs must have to face a crisis. That is what we have made through our meeting on to strengthen women entrepreneurial capacity. So now, apart from the capacity building on quality of entrepreneurs, we have also an ongoing action which is supported by global expertise, specifically the startup impact. The startup impact, which is a tool to assess and amplify impact in the field. And this activity will be promoted through publication, seminar, and conferences. So to implement this activity, remember that this activity is an ongoing activity. So we are prepared to launch the first edition of Startup Impacts, Women Startup Impact Against COVID-19. So we launched already again a survey of women entrepreneurs to assess their capability that they can use to cope with the COVID-19 crisis. So Startup Impact will implement a new center. Very soon, we'll implement a new center that will implement all these actions. So there is a franchise opportunity available if someone wants to make impact, to help a small scale enterprise make impact in their field. They can join this franchise to help small scale enterprises make impact in their fields. What is the next step? Our next step now, as I said it, we have strengthened women entrepreneurship capacities. The next step will be now women capacity building in terms of digitalization, and after that we will base on our action on women entrepreneurship and COVID-19 by using SWOT tools that will help us to know how they use their strength to compensate their weakness. Thank you for your attention, your question, your remarks, your contribution are all welcome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Caca, for that nice presentation, going all the way from how small businesses are faring in Togo within this times, and then zoning into women entrepreneurs. That's very, very helpful. So I guess at this point we can have some conversation. So the general approach or the rule that we have with tea time is that we don't have a closing time. We have the conversations until the last person leaves the room. So I'll bring it over to all of us. You are free to ask questions or make comments or start a conversation around any particular point that interests you based on both of the presentations. So I'll bring it over to us right now. I see a lot of us are muted, so I hope people are not trying to speak, forgetting to unmute themselves.
Eben, may I please ask Caca to pull down the shared screen so we can see faces now?
Okay.
You can bring it up
Sounds good.
if somebody needs it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wow. Thank you.
Great.
Hey. Good to see everyone. Maybe I will start. First, I want to say thank you so much to both presenters, Emmanuel and Caca, for taking us through this program. We're really happy that you've shared your insights. So I'll begin with Emmanuel. Really thank you, because who doesn't need tips of survival during this time? And the good thing is that we're going to have this recorded and it can be shared anywhere. We all need to, I mean, I loved particularly the distinction that you made between self-love and self-care. It's easy to just mix those up. If I love myself, then I'm going to take care of myself, but it doesn't happen like that all the time. You might have self-love, but you don't know how to take care of yourself. So I'm really stuck with that one. I particularly even took a picture of the screen where you were defining those two. I'm definitely sure that I'm going to try practice those. And one thing that I also loved is the DMN approach to things. Yeah. I don't know how many people really do this in day-to-day life, but I don't. It's something that I'm working with. Being assertive, sometimes you get into a situation where, like the specific example you gave about having a friend that didn't show up in a function in a place that you agreed to be, you sometimes end up saying, it's okay, and it's not okay. Those are really things that they look like everyday things that we should know or we do, but I personally don't. I am that person who says there's no problem, it's okay. Now you've taught me to say there's a problem, but in a good way. So really, I appreciate so much that you were able to take us through this, and I hope people that didn't have a chance to attend or be a part of this will have some time to listen. And coming to Caca, thank you really too, because pretty much most of the things I talk about is women-related stuff. In my personal life, in my academic life, it's just a topic that I'm passionate about all the time. So you were talking about, thank you so much for giving us all this data about what is happening generally in the bigger picture of Togo, and then bringing us back to the narrower scope where you're talking about women. So one thing that really touched me too is about women trying to make the best out of the COVID situation. Like, it's challenging, and then somebody's thinking about, oh, I've learned about financial management. Like, how can you even expect somebody to think like that? So it's not a good thing. Where is there something? COVID shouldn't have happened, actually. We can't say there's anything, I can't say there's something positive about COVID-19, but how can we in this time try to see or find something positive to work with during this challenging time? So those I didn't have questions. It's just things that I stood up for me that I wanted to put out there. So thank you so much, and I'll give the time to the rest of the participants to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe I will just pick it up from there quickly, especially with regards to the DMN thing that Emmanuel talked about. So when he was going through that, I was also thinking of it and how sometimes I live my life around such situations. And then I was thinking that, yeah, there are some people, for instance, if I'm supposed to go somewhere with Dr. Awadu and he doesn't show up, I'll tell him my mind. But there there are other people that you always find yourself saying it's okay, knowing very well that no, it's not okay that they didn't show up. So yeah, it's very helpful to learn some of these skills. And I was thinking of them, especially dealing with people that you don't have that kind of rapport with. And sometimes it's difficult for you to tell it to them as it is in a very appropriate way that doesn't destroy your relationship. I don't care how I say it to Dr. Awadu, because I mean, but there are people that you need to know how to massage the situation so that relationships don't get destroyed. So I really appreciated that. Yeah. And like you're talking about women entrepreneurship and how they're faring in these times. I really appreciate how Caca and the work that they are doing are zoning into women in particular, because I mean, we talk about African economies, and we know that we are made up of mainly of informal small businesses, and these are predominantly owned or operated by women. So it's very, very important that we have some insight that zones into women. And like Dr. Choti said, we are in a crisis, but it's refreshing to note that it's not all bad out there. There are some positivities that are happening with these small businesses that are owned and operated by women. So those are very good things to learn. And yeah, I'll leave it here so that Dr. Awadu can also say something. I know when he starts, he wouldn't let us say anything. That's why I came in first.
That's not fair, because I still don't have, Joram doesn't have anything to say yet at the moment. But actually to say, you know, looking at Chima, our first presenter, and how we went, I think, you know, for this time, that was really needed. Just like Eben, also thinking, hey, how do you apply this in certain situations? And just like, well, I think it's something that's contextual. You know when to say, hey, I'll press it with Dr. Choti here, or Eben again. You know, there are other areas, so it's okay. But yeah, it's actually very, very important for the mental health of you know, anyone. And I heard you say you are comfortable with the MS, you know, W, and you don't want to seek the licensure. And that's a talk I'll take you on someday, because I've actually been on that route as well. We could share notes, you know, why I think that way, and probably you'll see some, and I think that one speaks to us as internationals. For example, what can one do under OPT? And I'll tie this up with whether OPT or, you know, otherwise. Business entrepreneurship and, you know, all of those things. So like, what would you do with the LSMW, I think? What, you know, what would you do with that as somebody who is international, given now the opportunity, you know, that, for example, like people say COVID has brought all of this. I have certain pluses of COVID, you know, but lots of negatives made all of us stay indoors and all of that. But definitely one of the biggest areas, I know you're going macro, but what the teleservices have actually, you know, have actually, how do I want to place it? The teleservices have actually been projected much more in this time, and people have seen that, you know, there's a possibility to reach bigger crowds, you know, different areas, and the chance at entrepreneurship as well, you know, that cuts across borders. Because in the discipline, one of the biggest arguments that there has been is the area of confidentiality, especially when offering services online. But looks like, you know, COVID has just brought another aspect to that. And, you know, lots of scholars are questioning, you know, what would have to happen. And so, you know, a lot of thinking to actually go in there. So I kind of do both to bring in, you know, Caca presentation as well. I know it's a lot of Eben and Caca and, you know, in the area of those informal, the women, and how this has actually, how their businesses have been impacted. But it was very refreshing to actually see it from the angle of Caca, saying that, you know, there has been some areas that they needed to beef up, but that overall, women are still competing favorably, out there. Some would definitely get out of business, but I think, it's a time for creativity. It's a time for, persistence and resilience, which I think, most of the ladies score high on. And so I think it's looking outside the box. And I do think one question I wanted to ask is, with Caca is this information that is publicly available, or is it something you still have in your database and you probably will be, distributing it later? I don't know.
Okay, thanks for the question. I think for the general analysis on the crisis, the COVID-19 and the private sector, I think the survey of World Bank is published. But me, I use the survey to analyze the situation and made all the graph.
Okay.
Yes, I use the data from World Bank to analyze the situation.
Oh, the ones you're interested
But
in.
according to the women entrepreneurship, we realize a survey on 10 women who lead their company. So after that, we invite these 10 women and exchange with them to strengthen their capacities.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation.
Hi, everyone. I just want to comment about the two presentations and also ask some questions. First of all, I'm very pleased with the two presenters. You did an amazing job. Emmanuel, you did an amazing job educating us on their mental nomenclature out of social work here. So that was interesting. But I do have a question. Do you think there are African ways of imagining mental health that deviate from these highly Eurocentric ways of looking at mental health? And given that we live in what we want to assume to be the West being very individualistic, and therefore these models that you're sharing are very enriching in such situations. And then there's the other people in the world who live in highly collectivistic environment. Of course, we have to critique the so-called collectivistic environment, because in there too, there's a number of people who live as individualistic bodies. Yeah.
That's a very good question. Actually, in some of my classes, we talk a lot about how these services that are provided through mental health systems really mimic the Northern tradition, which is the settler colonialist approach of doing things. Whether you have universities established in Asia, in Africa, or elsewhere, they will still reflect that Northern tradition. And that it excludes people from access and appreciation of the service that is being provided. Even one Marxist critique of social work is, do social workers really serve the interests of the people, or do they keep the people content enough so they don't revolt against the big power system? If you look at the US, social workers are at the forefront of helping people access, cash benefits, there's specific names, TANF, and all of those things, food stamps. It's the social workers that do this on behalf of the federal government. But in our discipline, we talk a lot about social justice. And so it's kind of like we're part of the establishment, and at the same time, we're saying we're for the people. And so I think that intersects with what you're saying about providing our services in a way that's reflective of diversity. And so bringing this back home to collective societies and say specifically African societies, with my peers, who come from similar collectivist backgrounds, the first thing we acknowledge is that within our interpersonal relationships, we create this sort of therapeutic space for each other. We have a culture of talking to our elders, amongst ourselves. We have a free talking culture, right? But I think where things could be improved is bringing in more intentionality. because even in the realm of therapy, we have talk therapy, and then you have more targeted interventions. You know, like if you talk about DBT or CPT, where you're trying to use specific skill sets to address specific issues, because talk therapy is similar to what we would call unconditional positive regard from Carl Rogers in the humanistic school of thought, which basically says, you know, listen to people, give them a listening ear, don't disagree or agree. Somebody just needs that one voice who is for them, whatever the situation. And talk therapy can give you that, is you speak your mind, but we do need to bring in, you know, these special skills that are in these other approaches into the collectivist space, because people need skills to filter the good and then remove the not helpful. And a good example is that middle path of DBT, you know, seeing change what you can and then radically accept the rest. So I don't know if that really addresses the question. I kind of.
Oh yeah, it does. It does, because I was mostly looking for this idea of decolonizing mental health, and which you're touching on. So that's very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then on Caca, first of all, this is the second time I'm hearing certain aspects of your presentation, so that's very good. And I think you're doing a great job, because the UN Women just released a report on COVID-19 in the wake of the gender equality in the wake of COVID-19. And a lot of your findings are really telling with what they find out, because they're saying that women are not doing very well economically. The gender disparity along economics has widened, and some of the milestones that we had gained are being derailed. And some of the things that they're saying is that when you have reports such as your report, they want you to share it, because the data that is out there is not enough for them to understand the impact. So it's good for you to share that. You know, Jerome had hinted on that. Don't keep it on the shelf in Togo or in MSU. Put it up online so people can read it.
Okay.
Help people make decisions here. I'll forward you this report, or if you just go in and look at UN Women COVID-19 report, gender equality in the wake of COVID-19, this is what they're asking people like you who are doing this research to do: share as much as possible. But your research really marries into their findings. They're also pushing for better responsiveness along policy. I work on projects with USAID, and this idea of digitalization is huge with the current projects in Africa. So you're really doing a good job. You're doing what is necessary here. So yeah, keep it up. That's all I have to say. But I had one question for you.
Okay.
I'm really interested in the youth here. What are you doing with young women who are entrepreneurs in Togo?
With young women?
Yes, yeah, who are entrepreneurs.
Okay, young women's entrepreneurs, is that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, actually, currently, I am working with National Agency of Employment in Togo as entrepreneurship expert. So there we used to give some entrepreneurship training to young women who want to go through entrepreneurship to realize themselves. So our main action now is to support them in training, and then we have the government have set a local financing institution which can finance these young women, and after then we will come again to help them develop, create and develop their company.
Okay, so sorry if I'm being nosy about this, because I really follow up how the young people in Africa are funded. I come from Kenya, and I've been studying how the young people in Kenya are funded. So they're told to have, we have what we call Uwezo project. So young people come together, they have to identify a project, and then they get into business.
Yes.
But you see, once they've put in their proposal and their paperwork, it's taking them months to access this money, you know? And then they find out that they applied for, say, $500. So let's give it $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to getting the check,
Mm-hmm.
it's half of that. Or someone else in the government has to take half of that, you know. So it's these projects for young people have become dwellings of corruption. They're now really areas where adults or all these leaders that we have put their hands in their cookie jar and take the money from the young people. So how is that in Togo?
Okay, so I can say that we encounter this situation also in young entrepreneurship action in Togo. So there is some institution, as you tell it, who is back on these children. So when they get the money, they share it. But the objective behind the entrepreneurial action is not reached because young did not have this. I don't know how to say it. This possibility to manage their own financial situation because they divided the money between them, and after that they get into bankrupt.
Yeah.
I don't know if you understand me because
I do understand because it's almost the same predicament here. Ideally, the young people stay poor. Right?
Stay poor, yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Maybe just to throw in a word on that, Anne. I think it's not even just young people, but vulnerable people in general. And it's very sad that, I mean, we know that people are corrupt in normal times, but it's very sad that people can be corrupt even in such times. There was a recent undercover investigative work that was done in Ghana about people who are actually taking advantage of the coronavirus pandemic to actually enrich themselves. And it's sad to imagine it, not to even think of seeing it in reality, that interventions that are supposed to go in for vulnerable people in terms of feeding people on the streets and things like that, and people are trying to take advantage of such interventions to enrich themselves. It's sad. It's sad that people can be corrupt on normal days, but also in times of crisis like this. Yeah, so if people still have comments or questions or conversations they want to have, while we wait for others to come up if they have. When Joram was talking, it reminded me of something that has been on my mind. Let me throw it to Damaris or Chima if anyone knows anything about it. You know, we're expecting students to come onto campus. And in this sense, I'm talking about international students. People that were supposed to travel to the United States for their education. You know, I mean, we are going to school, but for many people, it's not just about going to school, it's about going to the United States. And so even though the universities have transitioned onto online programs and students might have the opportunity to go through the semester regardless of where they are, I'm wondering if there are counseling services or ways to help people manage mental health, particular to their situation. International students that were expecting to travel to campus or to the United States that were not able to do that. I don't know if maybe through the African Studies Center, Damaris, you know anything like that, or Chima through your contacts with services regarding mental health on campus. I don't know if you know or heard anything about that. I've been thinking about that.
Yeah, Damaris, do you want to take a stab at it first?
Sure. I mean, it's not like something concrete, I would say, But first, thank you so much for bringing that up. Actually, I've been thinking about something like that too, because of course I'm in touch with the incoming students, which is something that I'm glad about. I can communicate with them, we can talk about what's going on, but that's not enough. I can't call that enough support, especially in terms of what to bring up the mental health issues, because they were all ready to get into the plane and come sit in a classroom and interact and engage with other college students in the universities, but that didn't happen. So I'm glad that you bring that up. It's something that honestly I've been thinking about. What is it for them? Even aside from not traveling, there could be other challenges doing classes from home. It's a new platform that you're learning through. You don't know MSU to begin with, MSU as a place. You don't know the classroom cultures. You're interacting with people from all over the world that you haven't met. So there's a challenge in there by itself, like doing classes it's different from somebody like Emmanuel, who is like, okay, I know what classroom looks like. I know what it means to have these discussions in a space in person. But for somebody who is just getting there, so thank you so much for bringing, those are things that actually, I can't tell you that specifically we have thought of a program like that, but thank you for bringing it up. We'll start thinking about what specifically can we do, maybe in collaboration with people like Emmanuel, the experts, who can have a discussion on what types of engagement should we have with students who are not here with us. So one thing I'm happy about is that I'm in touch, at least not on that particular area of especially not mental health, I don't want to call it, but that emotional kind of support that they might need at this time. So I don't know what you have, Emmanuel.
I think first I was going to mention my SSP, the app that was from out of OISS. Before coming onto the Zoom, I tried to check if it was still a service that MSU is offering. It was basically an app through Mono Chapelle that students could use, internationals, to have online mental health services. It was active for a while, but I don't know if it's still active now, because I tried to load the app and MSU was not listed on it. But that was a great platform that internationals had for, chat therapy or get a phone call. But in the absence of that, there's still CAPS. International students still have access to CAPS telehealth services, both through Zoom or through text chat. So that's something I would recommend, that people utilize those services. But bridging that cultural gap, in that it might be easier for an international who's here to start utilizing those mental health services in comparison to somebody who's not here, who's never really had access to those kinds of services. There's so many things that we start to utilize when we come over because they become more normative, right? And so like with our department, what they're doing is trying to increase connections between internationals and the school in general, because part of the student experience is being at the campus. If it was just about learning, we would probably have not come here, because there are some online programs, distance learning, but it's in recognition of the much more that in-person brings. So I was talking to one of the international students in our department. We've been paired up sort of second years and first years. And I was sharing my experience in how, in arriving at my research interest, I talked to so many different professors and speakers, and how I got to do that was by going to different talks and then going up to and speaking with them. Now, if somebody's at home and they're doing Zoom classes, how do they get these opportunities? And so I gave the example of, for example, doing an informational interview. All the departments have faculty listings, and you read through their research interest and whatever, and scheduling a Zoom with them just to ask, directed questions to learn more about their work, in the absence of the opportunity to learn about it, indirectly through presentations they may give, but just reaching out, but also taking advantage of all the different Zooming events that MSU is putting together. A lot of us are Zoomed out, but for somebody that's not, been here before, that's something that they might be even more interested in. You know, so, like even this tea time, it's an opportunity to meet people, hang out and connect. And I think connection is really one of the best supports right now, as opposed to just saying, directing people to where the resources are. But sort of one thing we used to do, or I used to do when I was interning in my MSW, was instead of just telling students, undergraduate students, that, oh, you can go to CAPS if you need mental health services, we would say there's CAPS and I'm happy to go with you to CAPS and introduce you. You know, that gives people that extra push to be like, oh, okay, because people are scared. And you just walk with them and like, okay, this is CAPS, introduce them to the person, this is the reception area, you can talk to that person. And so it's the same thing with now, if you tell people, oh, there's this Zoom, come to this Zoom, and then they can start to, on their own, take initiative, as opposed to say, oh, just do this, do that. But sort of bringing it closer, it's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
And before we give it to Eben, I also want to mention that it's a good point that you've said the interactions, the connections make a difference. So please show up during the welcome picnic. We're going to have there's some international new students that have registered. So that's the good time that we welcome them and show the smiling faces and be like, there's a community here, even if it's a virtual community for right now. We're here. So please, if you haven't registered for the picnic, do so. Then we can have a chance to welcome the new students.
Great. All right. So we are close to doing 2 hours already. Do
you have a question, or do you want me to jump in?
Sure, great. You can.
Okay, I'm jumping in just to give you something in the face. All right, are you ready for my kick?
Yes.
Okay. I can take that for everyone.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you so much for the two presenters for very interesting presentations, and also to everyone who commented with very insightful comments. Before Nicole jumps in, I wanna just do my part. So I'm gonna ask Eben, based on what Caca presented on women coping strategies in the face of COVID-19, how do you relate Ghana, women in Ghana to that in terms of their coping strategy? Is it anything similar to what we might have in Togo, and what might be key, maybe particularities, specificities, especially you guys are also in the election period those days, so I just want to have a quick sense of how you see that, going on in Ghana.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, because when Caca was talking about that particular aspect, during that particular aspect of her presentation, that's exactly what was going through my mind. What I was saying to myself is, okay, it's good to see that someone has survey data to support these things that I have been seeing on the streets, because it's very similar thing that I've been seeing on the street. You see our dressmakers, for instance, during the very deep moments of COVID, when we had the lockdowns and all those things and people couldn't do anything, you see our dressmakers quickly going into the mass production of face masks for sale. People who were selling things on the streets that they could no longer sell because the lockdown period, they were not allowed to sell those things, quickly moved into buying and selling of protective equipment. So it's a similar thing we've been seeing on the street. So when she was giving that presentation, I was relating to it, and I was saying that, okay, it's good to see that this is happening everywhere and there's data to support it. So yeah.
I assume you are in Ghana though. That's what I assume. Are you in Ghana or in the US?
Yeah,
right?
I'm in Ghana right now. I've been in Ghana almost 2 years.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so maybe I'll go. Thank you so much to the presenters. I also enjoyed the presentation. And Emmanuel, thank you for sharing the different coping strategies, especially this time it can be very stressful. Just being in the house, like being an international student or being an African, you know very few people around, and then you have to stay indoors. Maybe I'm thinking like maybe some people like over the summer, maybe they didn't have anything to do or any work, given like international students, you are limited to what you can do. And even if you are given that authorization, then even the opportunities were not there. So like, I'm wondering, since like the issue of mental health, maybe I'm wrong, but we rarely talk about it, like in Kenya. You don't hear people talking about mental health. And when you hear of mental health, then you just think of those people who have been admitted in mental hospitals. So I'm just wondering, like, what can we do maybe when we are here, given we are a small community, to ensure that the people that we know maybe know like they need to seek help when they need help, or what can we do just to ensure like the people that we know that they are doing well or they are coping. Then to Caca, I also enjoyed your presentation, and one thing I'm wondering, like, when you talk of female or women entrepreneurs, what is your scope? How low do you go? Because I know you can have a small scale entrepreneur, but maybe there's those who have, for example, those women who sell on the streets or just have a very small stand where they're selling stuff. Do you focus on those as well? Or when you talk of female entrepreneurs, what is your focus? And then lastly, just wondering about, does the survey also include information about men? Because it might be interesting, for example, when you talk of support and what the men and women know, maybe comparing and seeing, like, do we see like perpetuating of maybe women being not knowing or not getting services that men are getting because we're in a patriarchal society? Like, those things are they also were they also covered in the survey? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think my focus area is micro enterprises, micro company that can be informal or informal, formal or informal, micro company. That is my focus. So according to the research or the analysis, I think if I understand well your question, I think what I made is concerning 2 points. The first part concerning the general view regarding COVID-19 and small scale company, small scale, medium company. But the second analysis concern only women entrepreneur micro enterprises. I don't know if I respond to your question.
Yes, you have. I was just wondering, like, the scope, but now I know, like, you focus on the medium and micro enterprises.
So, Pauline, expecting Emmanuel to say something about the mental health question that you asked.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was a comment.
Yeah, it is a comment, but if you have a response also, you can share with us.
Okay, sure. I totally checked out. Okay. True that there's stigma around mental health in collectivist spaces. It's seen in a negative light. It's not talked about. I think that's one of the generalizations that has a decent amount of truth to it. People like to put on appearances that everything is okay, have it together, and I think we confuse that with don't air your dirty laundry in public. I think these are two different things. I think if something is wrong and you're struggling and you need to reach out and get help, I think the problem with wanting to present as having it together is that it also compromises help-seeking behaviors. One of my professors during undergrad put it this way, that a lot of communities of color, collectivist communities, are very moralistic in their approach to life, like very adamant on what the right thing to do is, or he gave the example of morality in the sense of, people will stick to their guns about what is right or wrong, say, for example, regarding marriage and things like that. But then in the community, everyone's aware of the high incidence of things like, premarital sex, kids born out of wedlock and everything. But the collective consciousness will be, this is the way, this is the right way, come rain or come sunshine. When people are seeing that, the lack of flexibility without necessarily making a moral judgment, but the lack of flexibility in understanding what is actually happening is harming people. And I think this also applies to mental health, in that refusing to acknowledge or speak about the importance of mental health, disadvantages people that need those services. And so I think a good starting point is to desensitize people to sort of the shame and the stigma that's around mental health. And that starts with talking about it and, feeling comfortable to share what, people are going through. There was a campaign that was done through the student services on mental health. And I volunteered to participate because I saw it important to give voice to mental health issues. And the campaign involved, sharing what mental health issue you've had to deal with and how you navigate it. And so, like in my case, I have generalized anxiety and depression, and I'm registered with RCPD. And being able to share that without feeling shame, and also mentioning that there are resources that can help people navigate that, is a way of empowering other people, because there are supports and services that exist to help address those things. But if people, want to put up front that everything is okay, you've got it together, it really hurts the individual. And also it's about knowing how and when to share, as opposed to just don't share, So like if I'm in an interview situation, I'm not gonna start by saying, oh, I have a disability, A, B, C, D, you know what I mean? But I will, present who I am professionally, and then bring up that, ask, what accommodations does your company or your space provide, for people that have need of them with regard to this, specific mental health issue. So you see how you frame it is important. You don't frame it as a disadvantage, as something that's a stain on yourself, but you frame it from a place of access and inclusion, So those are some of the things I think that can help, in our communities. I mean, I know in the Malawian context, mental health means being confined to the psychiatric hospital. That's the understanding of mental health. But that's not all. The psychiatry is but one part of, mental health. So I hope that kind of speaks to what you said, Pauline.
Yes, it does. Thank you for sharing that information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to put in this because I just click on the report that Anne is Anne, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's kind of French speaking. It's Anne in French, so I just want to make sure that I'm pronouncing it well in English as well. So I think that's a great report that you just sent out, and it just have me think of the startup impacts that Caca just presented, the publication. You got a one-page first edition publication, which we actually thought of it to be a type of franchising opportunity. Why we think we have thought of when Caca assists me as part of Global Expertise, a consulting that I work with in terms of how women are coping with COVID on the ground. We finally thought it could be good to keep something going on a permanent basis about informing on how the crisis is impacting life, how people are changing, even after the crisis, how women keep, adjusting to entrepreneurial challenges, the opportunities going on. So how do we make it available not only for a small group of people in one region or area, but maybe across all the Togo, or maybe across all Africa? So this startup impact publication and magazine and news center is designed to be something that could be done in a location, for example, in Lome, the capital, or in other area in Togo, but in other countries. So that helped us set up a franchising business model for that. So wherever you are, whether you are Ghana, Kenya, or anywhere else in Africa, I think it's an opportunity to be discussed how the startup impact activities could be implemented in those regions as well. So that startup impact product has the publication, the weekly publication, a news center who's gonna talk every time about what is going on with women, how they are coping with that. And along with that, you have seminar on maybe a monthly basis, on bi-monthly basis, and a conference, a summit who comes, closing everything. So I just want to point that out. I was inspired by the report that I'm just sent out and give some clarification on startup impact, what we want to do with startup impact. Thank you.
Great. Thanks there. Any more comments, questions, conversations to have?
It's 6:01. I know we have to wrap up now, even if we have this room open forever. Oh, Eben, am I wrong?
Yeah, we have to. Yeah.
But I wanted to mention
we are in Ghana. No worries. Assume that we are in Ghana.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that we'll be happy to have some feedback from you, especially wanting to know what types of discussions would you like added to this conversation, to this platform, because we're all set for the fall semester, but we're welcome to any suggestions of topics, presenters that you could have in mind that you think would fit into this forum. Please share those with us, and anything else that you'd like to share about the tea time events or anything, just any feedback that you have. But specifically, if you can please let us know if you have any topics in mind that you want us to focus on, and if you have any suggestions of presenters as well, that will be helpful too. I'm done, Eben.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chima and Caca, for your time and for the presentation, and thanks everyone for the beautiful conversation. I think, as we have already indicated, we never close tea time until it's only one person remaining and they decide to lock the room and turn off the light. So I guess at this point, if you want to leave, you can leave. If we want to stick around, you can stick around until the last person would close the meeting. Am I speaking your mind, Damaris?
Yes, as long as Jorem and I and you plan to stick around.
Don't see you around though.
But
yeah, at
we
point,
can
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
We can say we are officially done. But if somebody just wants to say hi to somebody in this forum, you can just stick around and say hi. But Nicole, I think we're pretty much done now. Yes, and thank you so very much, Nicole, for sticking around with us and just making sure that technology is not hanging up on us.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed both topics.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Very much. I'm going to go ahead and end my part. I'll leave and do my stuff, and you guys can continue on. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh, and since she is the host, if she leaves, will it still be on?
Nope, Damaris is the host. We changed it. So no, you should still be good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.